Good day there, once again viewers, this is your mate Kamikaze78 here, coming to you guys with some more Planetside 2 content. Today guys, we're going to be returning to my personal project of reviewing all of the starter weapons in Planetside 2 for those newer recruits to the battles of Auraxis. Today, we're going to put the TRAC-5 carbine under the microscope, which is the default carbine available to the TR Engineer and Light Assault classes. As always guys, we're going to be kickstarting things off here by doing a TLDR of the review for those who only really have the time for a quick and dirty overview of the weapon, but for those who are more keen on the nitty and the gritty, we will follow up with a discussion on the weapon's stats and some further talk on how to make the most of the weapon as far as strategy is concerned. And then finally, we'll go over the admittingly small list of attachments that we have access to here to further improve the weapon. But formalities aside, let's get into the review by starting out with a quick TLDR overview of the TRAC-5 carbine. And well, I think I'll start things off here by saying that if there was one word that I could use to describe the TRAC-5, it would be something along the lines of dependable. I see a lot of people giving this weapon a lot of crap in the Planetside 2 community channels at times, and in all honesty, I can't really figure out why that's the case. The entire time I was using this weapon, I was having a seriously good time with it. And as far as you new recruits are concerned, this is a weapon that will serve you very well as you work your way into the higher ranks of the Terran Republic military. Honestly, the weapon sports a very admirable rate of fire, which is more than capable of holding its own in close quarters engagements, and when you take the complimentary 40-round magazine, there is nothing holding the weapon back from taking out 2 to 3 targets in CQC if your aim is true. Light Assault troops will also be happy to know that the cone of fire is very capable of being a threat in airborne skirmishes against other light assaults, especially when you go ahead and tag a laser sight on the weapon as well. Now, this may sound like I'm singing the weapon's praises, and I am, in all honesty, but that doesn't mean the weapon is perfect. Keeping your aim true is where a lot tend to be caught off guard by the TRAC-5 thanks to its rather strong pull to the right-hand side in the recoil pattern. So you do have to be prepared to deal with that added recoil pull, whether that be through compensating in the right direction with your mouse or joystick, or by bursting the weapon for longer ranged engagements. In addition, the heavier mag size does mean that you'll be spending more time reloading it, so ensuring that you have a fallback plan is going to be critical to maintaining those flanks when you have them. However, this is a weapon that I have always enjoyed a lot and is a weapon that has always served me well and continues to serve me well. A solid carbine overall. But let's just say you're more keen on going over some of the stats that build up the TRAC-5. Well, I can tell you that you've come to the right place, soldier. Let's talk stats. Starting off with the damage profile, we are firing a round capable of a maximum 143 damage within the 10 meter range, dropping down to a minimum damage of 112 after the 60 meter mark. So a couple of things to note here. Firstly, the damage drop-off occurs over 60 meters, which is actually pretty average for baseline carbines in the game, but it does drop a total of 2 damage tiers, which means that our damage at those extended distances are going to be a whole lot less potent than we'd like to see. In total, this means the weapon is capable of a 7-shot kill out to the 10 meter mark, an 8-shot kill out to the 39 meter mark, and a 9-shot kill beyond the 39 meter mark out to the 60 meter mark, where the damage reaches its minimum payload. So what does this mean? Well, it means that by the time we get beyond that 39 meter distance, we are going to really start having some trouble scoring consistent damage with the TRAC-5. But more on that after we go over the recoil pattern. Plugging the damage in with the rate of fire of 750 rounds per minute, or 12.5 rounds per second, we're going to be seeing a theoretical time to kill of 0.48 seconds at the 10 meter mark, 0.56 seconds at the 39 meter mark, and 0.64 seconds at the 60 meter mark. Now, keeping in mind, guys, that these values are only considering body shots with no damage modifiers coming into play, as well as there being perfect accuracy present with no bullet travel time. Now, moving on, we arrive at the weapon's recoil pattern. As I mentioned earlier in the video, the recoil here shows a clear trend of pushing the weapon up and to the right, which will require the user to compensate by pulling down and to the left on their mouse or joystick. Now, thankfully, the recoil here is pretty consistent as far as the angle is concerned, and the weapon doesn't deviate too far from the center point, even after a fairly long burst, which is handy. Now, the numbers that allow this to happen again include a vertical recoil kick per shot of 0.3 degrees with an accompanying first shot multiplier of 2.35 times, which means that every time you start a burst, you're going to deal with one shot that has a vertical kick of 0.705 degrees. Nothing too crazy there. However, when we look at the horizontal side of things, we have a consistent horizontal kick per shot of 0.225 degrees either left or right, with a governing tolerance of 0.55, which means that the weapon can only kick twice in one direction before being forced back in the opposite direction. Once again, that's a pattern that does keep things relatively centered under long bursts. But now we add the recoil angle into the mix, and this is where things start to get a little trickier, especially for new players. What we're seeing here is a 23 degree to 25 degree angle to the right at all times, with that small deviation not really helping us here either. However, as I said before, considering that we are always pushing to the right hand side here, it's pretty easy to counter in the grand scheme of things. As I said before, all you need to do is pull down on the left when you're firing a longer burst. Now the cone of fire stats here are also very agreeable, as I said before, with key standouts being the hipfire accuracy as well as the aiming down sights bloom, which alongside some mastery of the recoil pattern will let you easily keep your crosshair on target between 15 and 30 meters without problems. Ammo wise, we are greeted with a generous 40 round magazine with a complimentary 240 round ammo pool, which is reloaded in 2.595 seconds for a short reload and 3.7 seconds for a long reload. Wrapping things up is the 490 meters per second muzzle velocity and a stock standard aiming down sights movement multiplier of 0.5 times. Cool. So, numbers aside, that right there is the TRAC-5, and there's no denying it whatsoever. This little carbine here is a total workhorse. Now, obviously, it isn't going to be able to laser people at extensive ranges like what the Cougar or the T5 AMC are able to, but from CQC to medium range fields of engagement, there's very little you can throw at the carbine where it won't just shrug its shoulders and say, meh, just another day at the office. And this may be the NC in me talking, but I find the 40 round magazine really pays dividends to the success that I have with this weapon. Having those extra 10 rounds per magazine does a couple of things for the weapon in the scenarios that it's designed to work well in. For example, if you're scurrying around on a rooftop with the intent of harassing those below you, the extra 10 rounds lets you potentially engage one more target before needing to reload. Whereas with a 30 round magazine, if you need to fall back and reload, the enemies have sort of a chance to prepare for your next peek over that edge of said rooftop. Here you can make that less likely to happen just by simply killing the target that's most aware of your position and then going for it again and again and again, and really just sort of locking down and making sure that those targets who are more aware of your position don't have a chance to react. And the same can be said for a more CQC brawling style of play style. The extra 10 rounds means that you are more likely to have some rounds left over after an initial engagement, ready for the next rapskillion to emerge, which happens a lot. You often don't expect the second player or the third player to make an appearance where they do a lot of the time, and having those extra rounds in that mag ready to go is just, as I said before, it pays dividends. However, this does mean that you need to be a little bit less hasty on pressing the R key for a reload after every kill. The reload time here is costly, and while I always recommend avoiding the long reload, particularly on this weapon because 3.7 seconds on a carbine is a bit yikes, you should always really try to make the most of those extra rounds and that larger magazine size. You can't make the most of that bigger magazine size if you're reloading as much as your competitors are who have 30 rounds in a mag. So with the TRAC, and most other TR carbines for that matter, spread your wings and mess around a little bit with how many kills you think you can confidently score per magazine. I promise you, you will be surprised the more confident you get. Now, as we mentioned before, damage over range here is quite undesirable. Yeah, that's the kindest way I can put it, honestly. So with that, one thing you need to keep on the cards here is closing the distance. Sitting on a rooftop as a light assault and engaging people is all well and good, and I made it work with this weapon quite a bit. So when you're looking at flanking routes and how you're going to approach the targets on those flanking routes, consider the engagement distance a bit here to make the most of your damage payload. But all in all, this is actually a pretty simple and reliable weapon to get the hang of once you get past that left-hand side pull, and I would say that getting beyond that gives you a really strong starter weapon here. Sure, there are better options out there for certain engagement distances, but at the same time, this doesn't reek of the jack-of-all-trades smell that emanates from weapons that entirely ditch damage output for accuracy and ease of use. The weapon is potentially very accurate, and it still carries a damage payload that makes it extremely competitive, so I would certainly recommend giving the TRAC-5 some time and really getting the hang of it. It's simple, guys, don't be in a rush to get rid of this weapon. Master the reload, master the recoil pattern, and I promise you, you'll be cheering left, right, and center. Anyway, let's quickly go over the attachment options available to the TRAC-5 to see how we can improve things. The weapon has access to 1x to 4x optics, including a 1x RNV sight, the flashlight, laser sight, forward grip, suppressor, and flash suppressor, and that's it. Yeah, not the greatest selection out of the gate here, and being honest, the attachments that I do recommend here for the weapon are honestly free for the most part. I would not recommend going beyond the 1x reflex sight for this weapon, a sight that is available for free out of the gate, and I, in all honesty, would also recommend taking the laser sight for light assault skirmishing. It makes the weapon extremely accurate when it comes to hipfire, and gives you just a really awesome weapon to deal with those surprise light assaults with. Now, in saying that, there is some very strong argument to be made for the forward grip, and if you find yourself having issues with that accuracy over distance with the recoil pattern, then sure, take the forward grip, don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. It is a fair attachment to have on a weapon with a recoil angle present. I just find that with the laser sight, I can get a little bit more bang for my buck out of the weapon, especially considering the attachment is free. And of course, if you're looking at taking a more stealthy approach, then the suppressor is definitely a good way to go as well, something worth considering. Anyway guys, with all that said, that's going to wrap up today's video reviewing the TRAC-5 carbine. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a bit of a shorter review, one of my shorter ones as of late, but honestly, it's a fairly simple weapon to use, there's not a lot to go over, so hey, I'm all down for a slightly shorter weapon review as well. Let me know in the comment section down below, guys, what starter weapon you'd like me to see review next. And if you enjoyed the video, backhand the like button, backhand the subscribe button if you're new here, and I can't wait to see you guys all in the next video and on my next streams, which, by the way, twitch.tv/kamikaze78, linked in the description down below. Once again, guys, hope you have a good one. Peace out, guys, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Take care, guys. Have a good one.